Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Mountain Murders. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Hey, Dylan.
Hey, girl. How are you?
So nice of you to join me in the studio today.
Yes, I couldn't wait to record today. This is going to be a good one.
It is?
I think so.
I think you might be onto something, Dylan. It is May 7th. You know what? I just realized this is the anniversary of our first date.
Wow.
7 years ago.
So on this day, 7 years ago, was the beginnings of Mountain Murders podcast.
It's true because I remember Cinco de Mayo was on a Saturday. We went out on a Monday, like a Monday evening.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was the 7th. So, happy anniversary.
Oh, happy 7-year anniversary to you as well,
We
honey.
went on our little date, and then we were just kind of, that was it for us.
That was it.
Yeah, I can't believe it. 7 years has flown by.
And I came up with the entire podcast idea. It was all me. And I'm glad that you have went on this journey with me.
I am so thankful for your creativity, your will, your research.
Right.
I mean, without you, this podcast would not exist.
I was just looking for my my yang, right? I had plenty of yin, right? And I was looking for my yang.
I'm glad to be your yang. Are we the yin yang twins?
That's right. I'm going to do the whisper song.
Shake it like a salt shaker.
Hey, I don't care who you are. Shake It Like a Salt Shaker was a banger back in the day.
It's still a banger.
And
I'm not going to lie. When I hear that song, I'm going to dance.
it took the clubs by storm when there used to be clubs and people went out and had fun at them. And, nobody shot anybody. They just danced and got rejected and, had a drink.
Okay.
Back in the day.
Well, you say that, but I very clearly remember when I was in college, the local dance club, someone did get shot in the parking lot.
Yeah, and then they closed it down.
And then they closed it down.
And it was the best club. People were coming from other states to go
It was
there.
fun.
It was a good one because it was big,
The
right?
college night was popping.
It would have hundreds of people in there.
Yeah.
And that in that area, that was unheard of.
Thunder Ridge, baby. We've talked about it before on this pod, and you ain't heard the last of it.
Until someone got shot, an innocent bystander got shot in the head, unfortunately, poor guy. And, yeah.
Okay, Dylan, we have a lot to talk about today. Lots happening in true crime. But first, you were going to update us on the Karen Reed trial. This is a second trial.
Yes,
retrial.
This
right?
is the retrial.
Okay.
And in my clumsy way, I just wanted to bring up a couple of points, and I'm sure a lot of people out there.
Explain it to me like I'm 5.
I know that you haven't followed this case closely.
Not really.
And I have, for the most part. And, excuse me. I got to clean up my ums and all that. In the first trial, now, if you don't know out there, the listeners, which I'm sure most of you do, Karen Reed was accused of running over her husband, basically after a drunken argument and leaving him, to die in a blizzard. And in the first trial, it ended up in a hung jury. There's some interesting components, I think, to this case. Her claim is he wanted to go party more. She wasn't into it. They had been arguing, I guess, a little bit that night, and she just ready to go home. She leaves him at a home of some mutual friends, and she just wanted to go on home. And her claim is something there happened to him. They beat him up, some kind of a fight. Oddly enough, a dog attack, saying he was bitten by their dog, and then, thrown outside, if you will, and left to die. And then the prosecutor's claim is that she ran him over, even if it was unknowingly, because she was rather intoxicated, and then left the scene and then started looking for him the next day. Now, in the retrial, in the first trial, she had a lot of support. There's protesters outside of the courthouse. There's a, free Karen, kind of sentiment going on. And I don't think there is as much of that now. Of course, some time has passed. And I think that matters, especially in just, the court of public opinion. And I think the most interesting...
John O'Keefe, by the way, is her boyfriend, not husband.
I see.
And to add to that, he's a Boston police officer.
Right. And see, that's one thing they said was strange. Her defense feels was strange. there's all this commotion outside of another officer's home, or a retired officer, I'm not sure which, and they never come outside to see what's going on. And now I do find that a bit strange. Do you find that strange? There's all of a sudden a bunch of police, medical people outside, and you don't even come outside and see what's happening when you're a cop.
I find that odd. Yes.
That is a bit odd. Now you could argue that they had a drink and kind of partied the night before and maybe slept through it. I guess you could argue that. And but I think the newest piece of evidence is kind of damning for the defense, and that is the cell phone temperature of her boyfriend's. It gets cold and it kind of stays cold. It never warms up. And I did not realize that your cell phone tracks its own internal battery temperature this much, which makes sense because if it's overheating or malfunctioning, your phone probably should know that. And I think that's kind of really it makes it hard to argue that he went in that home and was there for a while and then something happened, because his phone would have warmed up. So I think that's the biggest piece of new evidence that kind of hurts her case.
So do you think in the end they might find her guilty of like manslaughter instead of second-degree murder?
Well, I don't know if that's even
an option.
But I honestly believe from the beginning, once I heard the details originally, I think she accidentally hit him. I think she tore out of there. They'd been arguing back and forth. She kind of peeled out, like, screw you, for whatever reason, if she didn't want to go party or was just over him for the moment. I think she peeled out of there, struck him with the vehicle, did not know it, and went home. And I could be wrong.
Well, there were something like 44 calls placed from her phone to his phone at the time they believe he would have died.
Right.
And I understand, like, some people could say, well, she was obviously trying to give herself an alibi by calling him. But 44 times, I mean, to me, that sounds like crazy drunk girlfriend behavior.
That sounds like crazy, mad, drunk girlfriend behavior.
Yes. And I've experienced crazy, mad boyfriend behavior, which is quite similar. I'm just thinking, you're right. She didn't know she hit him, and then she's calling him repeatedly, cussing out his voicemail because she's in that crazy, drunk, mad girlfriend mode.
Right. So, yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people are following this second trial, the retrial, and I guess we'll just have to see what happens. I mean, it's unfortunate. No matter what happened, the man lost his life. And if it was from freezing to death and you've been injured, that'd be a horrible way to go.
Absolutely.
I think dying of exposure and from the elements slowly sounds terrible. Sounds like a very terrible way to go.
No, I think you are correct. I always wonder about these cases where the first trial ends in a hung jury or mistrial, and then they have to go back and do a second trial. And we've even talked about cases where there have been like 3 trials. And even if you were guilty, like you're the defendant and you are guilty, that's a lot. But imagine if you're an innocent person and you have to go through multiple trials. That has to be nerve-wracking.
Well, yeah, I mean, and you have to consider the expense. I
was going to say, most people can't afford lawyers for multiple trials.
Oftentimes, people end up with public defenders in the retrial or, the next trial or couple of trials. But if you were truly innocent and it's, the state's theory is completely not what happened, that would be horrific. And I can't remember the case, but I listened to a Dateline about a guy who was tried 3 times and then finally found innocent. And this was over years.
Jeez.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's not, you can be found guilty and be innocent.
We had a friend recently, I won't go into detail, but we had a friend recently who who had jury duty and ended up sitting on a murder trial.
Yeah.
That was a very interesting process. Like, of course, after it was done, I was asking questions like, so what's it like? I've never had jury duty, so tell me, like, the experience and how do they pick jurors? But just hearing kind of his account of how it works, it's just really fascinating to me.
It really is.
And I can't imagine sitting on a murder trial. You know, my best friend and I were texting about it, and I was like, wow, you know, wouldn't you freak out if you had to, you know, be a juror on something like that? And she was like, I don't want that kind of responsibility. And I think a lot of people don't. I mean, you don't want the responsibility of putting someone in, you know, in prison for life, or, you know, sending them to death row.
Yeah.
It's a big responsibility.
It really is. And I understand the concept of a jury of your peers, you know, just regular everyday citizens. But you really are putting a tremendous responsibility on their shoulders.
You sure are. Dylan, are you ready to get into some of the latest in true crime news? Thank you for sharing that Karen Reed info with us.
Yeah, I think people see why I don't lead.
I don't know what you're saying. Dylan, this has got to be one of the most disturbing cases I've heard in a hot minute. There is a very sick neo-Nazi sextortion ring, say that 10 times fast, that blackmails teenagers into making really disgusting videos. And it's become so prevalent across the United States that every FBI field office in the country has at least one open case against this group or on this group.
Every FBI office in the country.
The FBI currently has more than 250 open investigations into this group known as 764, among other aliases. This cult-like network has ties to neo-Nazis and even Satanism.
Wow.
I just hear the church lady from Saturday Night Live going, Satan!
Could it be Satan?
Yep, Satan! Its members target young teenagers on platforms like Discord and Roblox. I don't even know what Roblox is.
I don't either, but I've heard it come up in various stories and articles, and it's something to do with gaming.
Okay.
It has a bunch of
That's why I don't know anything about it.
I think it has a bunch of simple games on it, but there's also like chat features and stuff, and that's what the stories I've heard it come up in is it's just for gaming, and a lot of it's geared towards younger kids, but people use it as kind of
perverts swoop in.
Well, they just use the other features on the game to do, you know, bad things.
Well, these neo-Nazi freaks intimidate these children into filming themselves, like posing nude, torturing family pets, carving symbols into their own bodies, and other acts of, quote, psychological torment and extreme violence, according to the FBI.
My God.
Yeah, I mean, there's some pictures here. It's pretty disturbing. 764 is a network of nihilistic, violent extremists seeking to destroy civilized society through the corruption and exploitation of vulnerable populations, which often include minors. This is according to the FBI. Bradley Cadenhead founded the group in 2020 and named it after part of his own zip code. Since then, it has reached way beyond the United States. All of the agency's 55 field offices have at least one 764 related case. So I've already mentioned that. But authorities arrested two suspects last month. Prasan Nepa Leonidas Varagianis, a.k.a. War, who's 21 years old.
And, oh my God, is he like a Roman Caesar?
And Prasan Nepal, a.k.a. Trippy, who is also 20. The pair are accused of targeting children as young as 13 years old online, and then, of course, intimidating them into making these explicit videos.
Yeah, you know, I get that they're, you know, targeting young people and scaring them in various ways. But, man, I mean, damn, you'd have to, even as a younger person, I don't think you could make me torture the pets in my house.
Members of this group share these videos among themselves and use them to blackmail victims into increasingly disgusting acts. So they take it even a step further once a victim has participated. Police arrested a 17-year-old girl in Vernon, Connecticut last year for allegedly calling in a bomb and swatting schools and places of worship. Investigators discovered photos of her posing nude, mutilating herself, and a shot of a nude Barbie doll with 764 written on its face. The FBI caught wind of the network in 2021 after arresting one of its members in Queens on gun charges. Sources told The Guardian that 764 is an outgrowth of an older, larger organization known as the Order of Nine Angles, which the Institute for Strategic Dialogue called a decentralized satanic neo-Nazi organization bent on the overthrow of Western governments.
So their sole intent is to sow chaos and corrupt the youth, basically.
Sow chaos and corrupt the youth.
Damn.
These dudes could have just formed a punk band and saved themselves a lot of trouble.
Well, I just don't. I mean, if you really truly believe that's going to overthrow Western civilization through these antics, I think something's wrong with you, right? I mean, that's a lot. What I think you're really getting is people who are sadistic and get off on this kind of abuse and bullying, cyberbullying, and just seeing how far they can make these people go.
They're perverts.
Yeah, they're just weirdos who want to cause people harm.
Absolutely, Dylan. I agree.
And I hope they hammer the shit out of them every time they get the chance.
Off with their heads. Off with their heads. All right, Dylan, we have got to discuss this because it is such a wild story. During a routine traffic stop for an alleged suspended license in Springfield, Ohio, a raccoon was seen grasping a meth pipe.
Oh, God.
This, of course, caught the attention of the police.
So wait a second. They pulled the raccoon over?
He was driving his little raccoon car.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened. These raccoons are now organized, and they're dealing drugs.
They out here.
They're dealing drugs to squirrels. It's very bad. So an officer made contact with the driver, who was identified as a 55-year-old woman named Victoria Vidal. She was detained without incident, whatever that means. However, things took an unusual turn when the officer observed a raccoon in the vehicle. And by the way, the raccoon's name is Chewy, sitting in the driver's seat with a meth pipe in its mouth.
So I'm sure he had to do a double take because he probably did not even believe what he was seeing.
Chewy had somehow gotten a hold of this glass meth pipe, leading officers to further inspect the vehicle. That's when they discovered what was described as a bulk amount of methamphetamine, crack cocaine, and also 3 used glass meth pipes.
So I wonder if they arrested the raccoon.
Well, I'm not sure, Dylan. Vidal is a resident of Akron, Ohio, and she was detained and charged with felony possession of drugs, paraphernalia, speeding. We won't get into all that. In a press release, the local police said, while our officers are trained to expect the unexpected, finding a raccoon holding a meth pipe is a first, and that no raccoons were hurt or injured in this incident. They confirmed that Chewy was unharmed and noted that this lady is the rightful owner of this raccoon.
Oh, okay. I thought they were going to say the meth pipe, and I don't know how you can prove that's not Chewy's meth pipe.
In Ohio, residents are permitted to own a raccoon as a pet if they file the appropriate documentation. Among other permitted exotic pets are chinchillas, sugar gliders, antelopes, roaming buffalo, moose, caribou, llamas, tarantulas, alpacas, deer, and emus.
Now, I've never heard of anybody owning a moose because I don't know if you can domesticate a moose.
I don't want to try.
My God, they get huge.
You're going to domesticate a moose? What are you going to do? Like get a little apron and teach it to bake?
Well, so if they got a squirrel and a moose, I mean, that's a classic combination, right?
I believe so.
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yes, Dylan. Some of us are old enough to get the reference. This is interesting. Not, I guess that we could not anticipate this happening. But a study shows that defunding the police resulted in more killings.
Now, does that class... I've heard something along this line before, but it was related to automobile accidents.
Well, according to the Major Cities Chiefs Association, this is a police group that tracks crime levels. Murder rose 44% from 2019 to 2021 across 70 of America's largest cities.
Damn.
But then something happened. Big city murders fell dramatically from their peak from over 9,600 in 2021 to 6,900 in 2024, which was a 39% decline. So you might be asking, like, what explains this dramatic rise and then almost immediate reversal?
So it's basically a spike.
You could call it a spike, Dylan.
A statistical spike.
Big ol' spike. Do you want to know what happened?
Yeah, I have an idea, but you go ahead and tell me.
Policing happened. The study of 15 major cities, including New York City, Chicago, Austin, Portland, and Minneapolis, found that murders spiked in the wake of the summer of 2020. We had a lot of political unrest, and police pulled back, making fewer stops and arrests. When policing rebounded in these cities, murders dramatically declined. Across the 15 cities with a combined population of 27 million and a disproportionate share of violent crime, police stops and arrests dropped 40% after May of 2020, but have since risen up to 37% from their recent lows in 2021 and 2022.
Well, I mean, that all makes sense, honestly, to me.
Meanwhile, homicides fell 32% from their recent highs. More policing seems to not only cut crime, but it's kind of like a numbers game where proactive policing reduces violent crime.
Well, yeah, because the bad guys are worried about running across the police, right? But that's not to say that there's plenty of work we can do to between the community and police departments. And I think one of the major things with that, we could talk for a long time about policing. I think the biggest thing, we've touched on this before, is the relationship between the community and the police. Because when I was a little kid, you saw a cop, you were like, whoa, it's a policeman or a fireman. I mean, there were these certain professions that were almost like...
Well, they were like honored
and
respected.
Now, but that was a two-way street, right? The police weren't scary. They weren't jackbooted, 4 or 5 weapons on them, with the big vests and all this stuff. It was just a cop with a cop uniform on, right? And but I think the connection between the community and the police was quite different then.
In some places, maybe.
At least where I grew up.
Well, I think in small towns, most of us grew up that way. But I'm sure if you were growing up in East LA, you probably didn't feel the same back in the day.
Well, no, but I mean, you need police to be from the community that they're working in, I think.
Well, I do agree that community policing is important.
Right.
So those cities where policing levels remain low, the murder rates still remain high. I mean, it's kind of common sense, but I guess we need to study it to make sure.
Well, I think there's things that could be done to improve the relationship between the community and police, but I don't think having no police at all is the answer, because unfortunately, the bad people, the ones who the police are there to kind of keep in check, are going to just run crazy when there's less policing and they know they can get away with things.
Yeah, I mean, we need law enforcement, and I feel like if I see officers patrolling my community, my neighborhood, my area, that doesn't make me angry. That makes me feel good. Like, okay, I'm glad they're taking notice of this area and patrolling. And I see people kind of wave them over and they'll be having conversations in front of a house or something. So I do think that it's important to have them out and about, being friendly, getting to know the residents, and addressing their concerns.
Now, even in a small town where we moved from, it was almost like the police were there just to give you a hard time. Even if it's over, traffic stuff, minor traffic offenses. It's almost like they were just waiting for you to make one small bad move. You know what I mean? And that's just a bad feeling. You shouldn't be like, oh my gosh, every time you see a police car.
No, not at all. Dylan, we need to move on to this story because it is, in my opinion, a very troubling crime.
Okay.
An OnlyFans model has been charged after evidence revealed she defecated on the hood of a car during a road rage incident before being pictured while arrested.
Now, do you think she was making content?
Police arrested a woman after wild footage showed she was taking a poop on the hood of a silver car, and this went viral. In the clip, the woman can be seen exiting a black vehicle during a traffic dispute and then squatting on the hood of a silver car doing the damn thing, Dylan. She's doing it. The driver, who was still inside their vehicle at the time, they got one hell of an eyeful. That's all I'm going to say during this incident.
I'm not going to stay still long enough for you to shit on my hood.
This happened around 5 p.m. on April 29th in Prospect Park, which is a small suburb just outside of Philadelphia. Christina Solometto, age 44, of Ridley Park, has been charged in connection with this now viral incident. She is revealed to be an adult content creator, I will get that out, on OnlyFans, where she caters to foot fetishists for a monthly subscription of $7.99.
And her channel is named Shitting on Hoods. I mean, come on, dude. What are you doing?
No, her handle, in case anyone wants to know, is Neens_toes. NEENS_toes.
Now, I wonder if she stays locked and loaded at all times in case there's some kind of an altercation where this is her go-to move.
I just don't know how you can shit on command like that.
That's what I know.
I also have like phobias about public restrooms and things like, and I would never want to take a dump in public unless I absolutely had to. Like even in a public bathroom is what I'm saying.
Right.
I cannot imagine just squatting on a car and taking a shit. That takes a real special kind of person.
I'm flinging you off that hood, dude. As soon as you climb up there, we're going to do some evasive maneuvers.
I'm going to hit the gas.
We're about to find out if you're a 1980s stunt person.
I'm about to Karen Reed your ass.
Yeah. And then go home and angrily call you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is disgusting.
It is disgusting. And I mean, I just don't know. I guess you think you're getting a one-up on someone. I mean, I guess in a way you are. But this is something that would never even come into my mind to do.
The act was filmed by a stunned bystander and, of course, has been shared widely across social media outlets. I mean, after she does the thing, Dylan, she returns to her car grinning like it's the most amazing thing she's ever done. Like, she's really amused by this.
Okay.
She's treating it as a joke. And my question is also, so you just go take a shit on a car and then you get back in your car?
Right. You're wondering if she wiped.
That was absolutely, yeah. Does she have like a bidet in her car? Because that's disgusting. And it looks like she's wearing a pair of shorts. So you're going to put your little shitty ass back in them shorts, them shorty shorts, and then you're going to go waller your car seat.
I think that's the least of her worries. I think she's a disgusting person. I mean, honestly. God. Who would do that?
When a reporter for Philadelphia Magazine sent Solometto a message to ask if her public defecation had any connection to like fetish content, she apparently responded with some vulgar language.
Oh, yeah. I was like, you're next, bud. Pull up. You know, that gives a whole different meaning to the term pull up. Wow. And you can get it too.
Wow.
Yeah, I hope you're driving a convertible. You can really get the full effects of it.
Oh, gosh. Please don't.
Oh, shoo.
Now you've made me never want a convertible.
She done one up.
I always wanted one, and now I don't.
She won up to R. Kelly, bro.
Gosh. It's just too much. Dylan, this is, I'm going to say kind of a feel-good story in a weird way. 62 years ago, a woman named Audrey Backeberg disappeared from a small town in central Wisconsin after reportedly hitchhiking with her family's babysitter. and then catching a bus to Indianapolis. But nobody ever knew where she went or what happened to her. All that changed last week when she was found alive and safe, living in another state. And this is thanks to the fresh eyes of a deputy who took over this cold case in February.
Wow.
Detective Isaac Hansen discovered this out-of-state arrest record that matched Backyberg. I will learn to speak English today. Which triggered this series of investigative moves that led to finding her alive and safe in another state. It turns out she chose to leave the town of Reedsburg on her own, likely due to an abusive husband. The officer said she is safe, happy, secure, and that she just kind of lived under the radar for that long.
So this is
6 decades.
Literally one of those cases where someone walked away from their life, basically, and just broke off contact with everybody they knew and just went away, went somewhere else.
Hansen was assigned this case in late February, and after discovering this arrest record, he and some other officers met with the family to see if they had any connection with this particular region where she was discovered. They also started digging through Backyberg's sister's Ancestry.com account. They pulled census records, obituaries, marriage license from that region, and within about 2 months or so, they found an address where a woman was living that Hansen said shared a lot of similarities with the missing woman, including a date of birth and social security number. So he was able to get a deputy from that jurisdiction to go to the address. And 10 minutes later, Backyberg, who is now in her 80s, calls the officer back.
Damn.
I mean, he's like, it happened so fast. I was expecting the deputy to call me back and say like, oh, nobody answered the door or whatever. But she was very open and honest. They had a casual conversation. She obviously had her reasons for leaving. I mean, the officer said he felt like he kind of understood that she didn't want to be found. But 6 decades later, here she is, like, living on her own terms, happy. I guess she's reconnecting with her family. So that's kind of a good feel-good story, right?
Well, yeah.
I mean, not the fact that she was abused or she felt like that was her only option, but I'm glad that she's been found, nothing terrible happened to her, and that she's able to, after these years, reconnect with her family.
Well, I think very seldom that is the outcome, right?
Yes. I don't think that happens very often. Now, Dylan, we have to discuss the Diddy trial.
Do we?
Well, kinda. I mean, it's a big thing.
Now, have you heard about complaints from the other inmates?
No.
Preferential treatment. Allegedly, Diddy's kind of sliding correctional officers some money to be a security, outside food, cell phones.
Does that surprise you?
No, doesn't surprise me at all.
It doesn't surprise me either. Jury selection for Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial began Monday morning in New York. And of course, it was a media circus at the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. 150 potential jurors were asked to fill out a questionnaire that gauged their knowledge of Combs, their views on law enforcement, whether they have experienced a sexual assault, and more. They were also given a list of at least 190 people, including celebrities and public figures, and asked to indicate which names they recognized.
None of them.
Well, among the names on that list are Michael B. Jordan, Kanye West, Mike Myers, and Kid Cudi.
Yeah, I've never heard of any of those people. Who are they?
Well, one of them is Shrek. Okay, so it's unclear how the names on the list relate to this trial, or if at all. Combs is known to have hosted these big parties and is well connected among celebrities. So, I mean, there could be some reason, or maybe they're just trying to gauge how much celebrity knowledge these people have.
Or maybe just how honest they're answering the questionnaire, if you will.
Or maybe, they're building a trivia team. It's celebrity. They want to know who's going to be part of the team. Well, anyway, prosecutors believe that Kid Cudi, for one, is a victim of a car bombing committed by Sean Combs back in 2011. During that time, the rapper was romantically involved with Sean Diddy Combs' longtime ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, who is the star witness of the federal trial. A source familiar with the case indicated to Variety that Michael B. Jordan will not be a witness, The Sinners actor went on a date with Cassie back in 2015, and Combs was said to be upset about it. This is what I don't understand. You're going to be mad. You're going to beat this woman's ass, and then you're mad that she's on a date with somebody else, like some years later.
Now, isn't Diddy all gray and such? I don't think he can get the dye.
I think he is all gray. Others included in this list, Dylan, are Destiny's Child singer Michelle Williams, actor Lauren London, singer Dawn Richard, singer-producer Dallas Austin, and then many of Combs' family members.
And one indie podcaster, Dylan Packer, no questions, no comments.
A surprising number of potential jurors indicated that they were not familiar with any of the names. Now, do you believe that?
No.
I think it's possible. Depending on their age. I mean, a lot of people don't really pay attention to social media or celebrity news and maybe are not familiar with... I mean, if you're not listening to rap music, would you know who Kid Cudi is? I think a lot of people would not know.
No, I think that's one of the least known names that you said, honestly. And I used to rock Kid Cudi back in the day.
Well, I'm on a pursuit of happiness for sure. 32 of these suspected jurors were interviewed by the judge. On Monday, they were given the option to discuss sensitive or personal questions in a private sidebar with just the judge, the court reporter, and 2 attorneys from each party. Several of the potential jurors detailed being sexually assaulted or harassed in the past. They were asked if their experience would prevent them from making an impartial judgment, and most of them said no. The majority said they had received sexual harassment training as mandated by their employers, and many said they had seen the hotel surveillance video obtained by CNN that allegedly shows Diddy beating the shit out of Cassie. There ain't no pleasant way to put it.
It's hard to even put allegedly in front of that one.
Yeah, alleged. I know, right?
But you have to say it.
CNN's copy of that video is not going to be used as evidence in this trial, but it's possible that the original footage will be discussed.
Now, this will honestly be a tricky jury to sit people on because of the high profile. And now, can jurors do like book deals and stuff after the trial's over?
I'm not sure.
Because
Maybe.
if you can, this one's a gold mine.
Maybe.
Now, some people were actually being paid to hold places in line outside of the courthouse.
Yes.
Upwards of $35 an hour.
Yes, I did see that. Now, since 2023, the music mogul has been hit with more than 70 civil lawsuits accusing him of sexual misconduct, ranging from rape to sex trafficking. Those lawsuits are separate from this federal trial, which will likely feature testimony from high-profile figures such as Cassie Ventura and other alleged victims whose names have not yet been revealed.
Do you think they're going to nail him in this trial?
I do. Federal prosecutors say they have interviewed more than 50 witnesses and recovered evidence from over 100 laptops, cell phones, and other electronic devices that paint Combs as a serial abuser who had this vast criminal network held together by assistants, security guards, and other employees who kept quiet for years. These charges stem from alleged crimes that span back to 2004. And of course, Sean Diddy Combs has denied all allegations and insists that all of these sexual activities were consensual.
I don't think anyone believes that.
You don't?
No, I mean, I think he is a POS.
I mean, people was believing Bill Cosby.
He's already out of jail. I mean, that's crazy, right? Bill Cosby's already, they just let him out. It kills me. They'll be like, just like with, there's allegations against Ron Jeremy.
Yes.
But they would not bring them against him because of his, he's older.
Deteriorating health
and the mental capacity.
Yeah. I think that happens a lot. That charges aren't filed against. I mean, it's pretty hard. I think it's pretty hard to prosecute sexual offenders in court. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. For whatever reason, they get a slap on the wrist and they're released back out into the wild. I mean, rarely do we see someone really get nailed for committing these atrocities.
That's true. That's true. Now, in this, there's going to be plenty to come from this trial, I'm sure, on a day-by-day, play-by-play basis. So I guess it's kind of interesting to see what might come up.
See, I do have a feeling that this will be a big deal, and I do think that he will be found guilty and will end up spending like the rest of his life in prison.
Oh, well, I honestly think that the powers that be behind the scenes, for whatever reason, turned on him. And I think that's why all this came about, because it was basically an unspoken secret that he was in doing these kinds of things. Because you look how far back these crimes go. Look how many victims there are.
Well, it's like with Weinstein.
Right.
I mean, Courtney Love's crazy ass was out there she was out here telling people back in like 2005, like, don't go to Harvey Weinstein's hotel room, kind of jokingly. But it was like a known secret in Hollywood that like he was a creep and you shouldn't go to his room.
Right.
Or be, I guess, in a confined space with him.
Which is disgusting.
Yeah.
Well, and I was thinking, I heard someone discussing the Epstein list. And there's like,
man, we ain't never going to see that list.
And you know why? Their theory, and I agree with this, is because you lose all that blackmail power connected to the list and the people on the list.
Well, and I think some of the people on the list is in control.
Well, there's that.
And they don't want their names to come out. Take that how you will.
They did sell his island.
They did.
Someone bought it.
Why?
I don't know.
I play this silly little game on my phone all the time called BitLife. My daughter got me hooked on it, and it's just like a way to sort of decompress and waste time, and it's ridiculous. It's almost like Sims or something, like you're creating this life and this person.
So basically you're born and you go through a life,
yes,
and then you die.
And you can like pick jobs and what. I mean, again, it's kind of silly, but you can buy an island. And I'm just going to say I've been an island owner in the game.
Yeah, but even in that silly game, you wouldn't buy Epstein Island?
That's actually what I changed my island's name to. No, I didn't. I'm fucking with you. I'm not going to buy Epstein's Island. I just feel like that's bad. You're getting all kinds of like bad juju there.
It sold for like $60-some million.
$60 million?
Yeah.
That seems low for an island, don't you think?
I guess it depends on the island.
Is it even a good island?
I'd say it was a good island.
You think so?
I'm guessing.
I mean, I guess any island with a beach.
Yeah, but I don't even want
a good island.
I don't even want these buildings or anything.
I don't want to step foot on that island.
No.
Just knowing what happened there.
Right.
I mean, he was a fucking creep and he did horrible things and exploited young women. And I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to own the island.
It's got bad energy.
I don't want to visit the island. But I mean, I guess if you have millions of dollars and you can buy the island, good for you. But you just made a bad choice. So just days before Evelyn Hernandez was scheduled to give birth to her second child, she mysteriously vanished in San Francisco. The Salvadoran immigrant and single mother was last heard from on May 1st, 2002. Her wallet was found several days later in a gutter miles away from where she lived. On July 24th of 2002, Hernandez's body was found in San Francisco Bay. It was missing its head and several limbs. However, her unborn baby and her 5-year-old son were nowhere to be found. Months later, in April of 2003, the body of another newly pregnant woman was discovered in the San Francisco Bay. I bet you know who that was.
Lacey Peterson.
You're the winner, Dylan.
Yeah, dude. We need to talk about what we were talking about last night with this.
Yeah, well, that's what we doing. That's what we doing, Dylan.
Hey, when we pulled that up, and you were talking about, go ahead. Go
okay.
ahead.
They don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
we're on the podcast, bud. So like Hernandez, Lacey Peterson's body was missing its head and other limbs. The body of the 27-year-old's unborn son, Connor, did wash up a day earlier. We all know that Lacey was married to Scott Peterson. She lived in Modesto, California. But she did go missing the same year as Hernandez. And, of course, Lacey's husband, Scott, is currently serving a life sentence for the murders of his wife and unborn child. But to this day, Hernandez's killer remains unknown, as well as the whereabouts of her children. Despite their eerily similar ends, many people only know Lacey's name
Right.
And we probably know why that is. But I have questions. I mean, and maybe they're answered because guess what? Hulu has a new docuseries that discusses these cases. It is called Murder Has Two Faces. It's a 3-part docuseries from ABC Studios, and it's premiering this week on Hulu, and it's already there.
We're going to watch it.
It's hosted by Robin Roberts. She's an anchor with Good Morning America, and each episode kind of unravels the crime and how it shares these uncanny similarities, like the Lacey Peterson and Hernandez case, and then I guess there's some others as well. But the docuseries really focuses on Hernandez's case. I just am blown away when I see the side-by-side pictures of Hernandez and Lacey Peterson. They could be sisters.
Yeah, and obviously one's white and one is Hispanic. But when you pulled it up, we pulled up Hulu. It was prominently displayed there in the banner. And if I didn't know better, I would think these were sisters. I mean, they looked almost exactly the same.
They were very strikingly similar.
Right, because I think everyone remembers Lacey had dark features, dark hair, things like that. It goes beyond that. They had the same face structure. They looked like they were kin.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't know these two women and you just showed their photos, one would say like, oh, are they sisters? I mean, they got to be related, right?
Right, which pushes you to consider, was there an unknown killer? And did these women match? And they were both pregnant. Did these women in some way match what he was looking for, the victim?
And are there others that we don't know about? That, okay, these two washed ashore, but okay, so now maybe I need to go further out.
Right.
Or something.
Dude, I mean, honestly, I don't know if Scott Peterson did it. That's a hot take. I know it is a hot take, but I don't know that he did it. And the more I've gone over that and looked at it and looked at the case, we've talked about this before, the more I feel that way.
Well, again, I've said this, if I was on a jury, I would have trouble convicting him because there is no physical evidence. It is all circumstantial. And I get that so much circumstantial evidence and these coincidences. I mean,
yeah, but you consider her dog was found with a leash.
There's a lot of other stuff to consider that wasn't even really brought up at trial.
And then you had those the robbery across the street, which is a whole nother thing.
Witnesses in the neighborhood who saw her
after Scott left,
supposedly the time she would have been taken.
Yeah. And I don't even think honestly, now there's been cases where the circumstantial evidence was good circumstantial evidence and there was a bunch of it. And at that point, you got to be like, look, you can't be this unlucky. All this stuff means that you likely did it. I don't even think it's that good of circumstantial evidence. Like the hair on the pliers in his boat or whatever. Gosh, his wife had long hair. Your daughter and my daughter lived with us with long hair. And their hair got everywhere. I would find it on myself at work.
I still find we've moved into a different house in a different state, and I still find these long ass hairs that I know like belong to your daughter because she's got really long, like dark, black hair.
Right.
And I find these really long strings of hair randomly in like old clothes, like stuff when I'm switching out my summer winter clothes or something, like in a bin. I'm like, why is there like this long hair? And I guess it's from the laundry or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's very easy to transfer a hair like that from home to somewhere else you go. I don't know.
Well, during the investigation, police did learn that the father of Hernandez's baby was a man named Herman Aguilera, and he was married to someone else. Now, his workplace was not far from where Hernandez's wallet was found. He claimed he called Hernandez on the day she went missing, but she didn't answer. And then he said he even drove out to look for her, but decided to go back home after believing that she was just avoiding him. Police said Hernandez was unaware that Aguilera was married. They also said Aguilera's wife was aware of her husband's relationship with this other woman, meaning Hernandez, but did not know she was pregnant.
Damn.
Similarly, Lacey's husband Scott was having an affair. However, Aguilera was never deemed a suspect or a person of interest in Hernandez's killing. So why is that? Why was Scott Peterson immediately the number one suspect, but this guy has plenty of motive?
That's the classic, she's my side piece, but now she's pregnant. Dude, how many cases has that been?
This is my confessions.
How many cases has that been the case, the situation? And it was always the guy who didn't want, the pregnancy to come, to full term and have all these problems with having got his...
Or a jealous wife?
A jealous wife. Yeah, all that.
I'm just saying, it seems like unfair or... how do you come to these conclusions that this... If the wallet is... if we're convicting Scott Peterson based on this, circumstantial stuff, then how come we don't take a look at this guy? He works very close to where the wallet was found. This is his lover. He's committing adultery. They're going to have a baby. I just don't understand. Why was he not looked at closer?
I call that a love child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the song.
But
never quite as good, love child. I do love the Supremes.
Both of them dumped, both of them dismembered. It's very strange.
It is very strange. One could say, well, maybe Scott Peterson was aware of this case and thought, I can copy that. That's a thought. I don't know. What do you think?
I think we ruined the premiere of Hulu's docu-series because we've answered all the questions here.
No,
we've asked all the questions too.
We haven't, and I'm going to dive into this docu-series. I need something new to watch, so
we're going to watch some of it tonight.
We're going to watch some of that. Dylan, we have one more story here that is very disturbing. A South Carolina man intentionally ran over 3 people on Sullivan's Island. This was last Thursday afternoon. Justin Colin Adams has been charged with 3 counts of attempted murder and 1 count of first-degree aggravated assault for allegedly running over a parent and 2 children in the Sunrise Presbyterian Church parking lot just before 1 p.m. on Thursday. The arrest affidavit for Adams says that the 36-year-old carjacked his mother at knife point and threatened to cut her face before he took control of her vehicle and accelerated towards the playground of the school.
So this doesn't even make any sense.
In the playground area, he hit a 12-year-old boy before accelerating at a high rate of speed toward a sidewalk. He appeared to be chasing the children as they ran, according to witnesses. He allegedly ran over a teacher who was thrown over the hood of the vehicle after impact, and then a 10-year-old boy who was pinned under the car when it struck a curb. That deployed the airbags and brought the vehicle to a stop.
Damn, how scary would that be?
Terrifying. An Isle of Palms police officer, Sergeant Matthew Storen, took Adams into custody after a manhunt on Thursday evening. Adams is being held without bond on the attempted murder charges and on a $100,000 bond on the aggravated assault charge.
Man, they should kill this guy.
They did a full-on search. They had multiple aerial assets. They had marine units, boats. They knew he was last seen in an area that's described as a marsh. The helicopter was up in the air. They had Sullivan Island sergeants in the helicopter to guide a local pilot kind of around. They were doing really low passes. They were like, we're going to get this guy. And good thing they did.
Yeah, I wonder what in the world was going through his mind.
I don't know. It's really scary to think this could happen. His mother, I just think about her being traumatized by this. Can you imagine your son holding you at knife point and taking the car from you? And I don't know. It's pretty scary. But then these innocent people are just going about their day.
Yeah.
And they're mowed over by this maniac.
Well, it just shows you that something like this can happen at any time. Damn.
Yeah, I wanted to discuss that just because it's such a popular touristy area, Isle of Palms. A lot of people like to go to Hilton Head, Isle of Palms, Charleston area. So
Watch out.
I guess watch out, dude. All right. Thanks for sitting down with me today to discuss some true crime, Dylan.
Thank you. Thank you as always. I enjoyed it. Enjoyed catching up on this week's true crime with the listeners. Couldn't even get it all in there. There's so much going on.
Oh, there's some other stories that I wanted to talk about, but
Yeah.
I don't want to like bore people and drag on. So we're going to wrap things up for today, but I do want to recommend checking out the Darkcast Network because they have so many. We're part of the Darkcast Network, and there are so many podcasts. We've recently added some new podcasts to the network. So if you're looking for true crime, paranormal, just weird stuff, UFOs, aliens, like high strangeness.
Yeah.
All of that.
They have it all.
Yeah, they really do. So you can check that out at darkcastnetwork.com or look up Darkcast Network on Instagram. CJ is really good about posting a lot of this content there. But check it out. If you're looking for podcasts, I know I'm like scraping the barrel trying to find something to listen to.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be picky, but sometimes someone will recommend a podcast and they're really excited about it. I try to listen, just can't seem to get through the podcast.
Well, everybody has things they like and don't.
And it's stuff that I'm like, I really want to like this, but for some reason, I get turned off or whatever.
Oh my God, you're like the 1-star reviewer. You really wanted to like this.
I never do that. I'm not going to leave a 1-star review.
No, because if I don't like it, I just move on to keep checking things. I'm never going to take time out of my day to talk trash and trash someone else who's taken the big first step of making this content and putting it out there for me to enjoy for free. I mean, come on.
Absolutely. Dylan, I did see a podcast today mention that they had some kind of ad pop up in the middle of their show. And I suppose it was maybe like kind of offensive to listeners or did not align with like the podcast's, values or whatever. And they ended up like, I guess, talking to the network, the hosting platform, and like letting them know, hey, we don't want this kind of ad on our show. But I was just thinking about that. We don't really have any control. We get a lot of people who are like, oh my gosh, the ad volume is so loud. But we don't really control that. I mean, that stuff is just sort of inserted in there.
Right.
So if you ever hear any like weird advertisements that don't sound like something we would say or support, then it's probably, we didn't choose. I mean, we never choose those ads. So.
No, it's all just random insertions. No brand deals here.
It made me wonder, like, what the hell did the ad say? I mean, if it was like so offensive that people were like emailing and commenting about it, I'm just curious.
Well, yeah, it's funny because you wouldn't imagine even with the auto insert kind of generic thing going on, but that would be allowed of any type.
Now I'm just curious.
I have some ideas, but I'm going to keep them to myself.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for sitting down with me, Dylan, again. And we will be back with part 2 of the Kelly Tenya story on Monday.
Yeah, I can't wait for us to wrap that up and see how it all turns out because that's such a crazy story.
You've got more to go, bud.
All right.
All right. See you later.
Bye.